We got to get these hashtags in here for the YouTube. Hashtags for the YouTube. Oh, we need the backstage to stick there. Phone fell off the bike, man. So any of y'all that see this can hear me. I'm on the restream again. Oh, oh shit! I don't know if it'll. Holy crap! We get YouTube Studio. I just want to play a few clips, and I want to talk about the Cherokee Nation. I'm doing this at the Cherokee Nation. I'm challenging jurisdiction. I'm sure people, well, the way the judge made it, so I've seen or heard this crap on the internet, but so not really, that this is that big. I don't know. So, with all the McGirt stuff, Tulsa, I think the police, or is it the county, that they're not even going to stop them, or if they do, that they're going to um, send them straight to tribal. And here they say we're cross deputized, that they're like tribal police too in my county here in Sequoia. Well, now I got a little stickler. Oh, so it is over here. Now we have a stickler. Hold on, folks. Here at the Cherokee Nation Court, and a couple. The GRDA police was nice, said that he's going to write me a ticket anyway, but he impounded it for traffic infraction. So that's wrong. So 5 months later, no car. I'm on this bike, and my friend's riding it, and now I'm riding this little mini chopper right out in front of the yard on the road, and a cop that doesn't like me, that tried me before on a warrant pickup, said, if I see you out here again, I'm going to charge you with no license. And he did this time, so now they're racking up. So now I gotta go and make this case that I'm simply just being targeted because of my status here as a person who doesn't need a license that's protected. I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm just a free American. Citizens are nationals, whatever one chooses to pick. What citizens are actually made to be for people who aren't born here. That's why you can't become a national as a foreign-born person, or not supposed to. But either way, citizens and nationals both have the right to travel according to the federal law and the case law. So hang on, let me get to the YouTube here. I forgot what I was doing. Get some of these hashtags put on here. But yeah, we're going to discuss some of that today. So I feel like this is important. This is live on YouTube. So hopefully it works out and saves and does all that. So basically, if you guys, hold on, let me get something on screen here. I'll play this. Whoa, that's cool. So if I had a camera, that would be me. I thought that was the screen. Can we still... Yeah! Since there's no camera there, right, coming in on this fucking computer. It says it's on, but I don't see nothing. So, yeah, we're going to play some clips here. Some important cases that are coming up that I'm going to have to possibly reference today. I'm getting everything I can gathered, and I want people just to tune in and listen. And just, but basically, if you got any help, help me out here. 5 months, car and impound. I'm really doing this. Most of you talking about it aren't doing this. You're not out here really challenging jurisdiction. You still have a license, registration on your car. And you want to, oh, the government this. The government can't do that. Like, it's cool that you agree, but, and you think this is the number one thing, or at least in the comments, as you can see all these people. But I talked to these people, and then they had answers before, and now it's like, well, you gotta do this thing with the IRS, and one guy's kept it real. You just tell him the truth. Look, man, I'm protected here. What you got? You guys aren't properly training yet. your law enforcement, government officials, or anything out the gate. So, if I can do that real quick. Okay, so I need to copy. I don't think I can just copy the whole thing, but I need to copy it if I can. We'll put that on there, the Chevron Doctrine, since we're talking about that. And scroll that. Usually when we have stuff live streamed here on the radio, Restream was booting us, so we're going to be careful what we talk about. I just, better not. I better not. Um, Dashboard. So, I'm out here doing it. And municipal court so far, they haven't done nothing. There's no warrants on the record. They're a court of non-record, they claim. Well, I told them that's not a court of law, and I sat in there for weeks. I bailed out and sent them a rule nisi and haven't heard since. When they rejected all my paperwork, I mailed them in certified a rule nisi, ordering the acting judge. So far I can't find any record or anything to do with that case. I've been stopped all over the county, and it's usually the same one of two officers. The rest of the same department doesn't care. They still claim they're cross-deputized and they don't have their own jail or cops. They do have their own cops, but they don't have jail or nothing. So I don't understand. We need to get this settled. I don't think American cops can go over to another country and arrest somebody on vacation. And this needs to be kind of, is it land? Is it sovereign? Or is it clearly what's state-like corporation powers? And I don't know what there we go. So, now I try not to listen to them when they're muttering, but when it's about me, the last time my first ever appearance at Cherokee Court, my first time ever doing this, because I've been 10 years, they don't bother me about it. Hold on, I didn't get everything. They tried to say, let me give you some advice here as a private attorney after going through his obfuscation techniques. Blah, 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 this, that, and the third. You got to do it. Well, sir, you still haven't proven jurisdiction. You want to go to trial on the matter? I said, no, sir, I'd like to get relief and remedy here for defending this frivolous case. That's not going to happen. We'll set a trial. He tried to plea on my behalf, not guilty. I said, sir, I don't have a POA with you, none of that. And then so you're going to act as a private attorney, enter a plea on my behalf, doing the same thing as a bar member of the Cherokee Nation Bar. So it's the same corporate fiction. So you had to plea on my behalf, and then you try to, let me give you some advice, which is, as a private attorney, his exact words. You don't want to do this. I don't need advice from a criminal. So you don't have to prove you're not a criminal. So anyway, this is live on YouTube. We're going to watch it later. This is going to be like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to wish I could go live on the phone like we do with the radio, but I don't want to do all that. I want to make sure I get a recording of this. So we'll be using some kind of device. But my main phone, it flew off the bike. We'll be back. We're going to play some videos, but mainly all the case law, the federal, Supreme Court, whatever, the Supreme Court law, and ruling, what they're doing is in violation of the Supreme Court. They're not training their officers. They're just arresting and impounding and seizing our property without due process now, violating the law. It's an emolument violation, the biggest case in American history, right in here. You know, hold on, let me get up before we do this. And AI to lie and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. I read it. See, look, it's the top thing. Yeah, that might be what I tell you. Wow. You know, they're already trying to, like, look. 1884 case that they, oh, yeah, you guys can do this. Incorporation case where Supreme Court held that Fifth Amendment provision requiring indictment by grand jury was not applicable to state governments. Yeah, the 14th Amendment due process clause. So the 14th Amendment wasn't ever ratified. This is not positive law, and they are telling you all in your officers that that's positive law. This is a big case. Justice Stanley Matthews wrote for 81 majority grand jury indictment was not required on the state level, which is bullshit. It says all cases where the state may be party, and it's not. What the fuck? Original jurisdiction. Wow. Matthews reasoned that the process clause did not encompass specific guarantees of the Fifth Amendment, and that any legal proceeding could constitute due process. Justice John Marshall, hold on. I was alone arguing that it was inconsistent with the due process of law and required a person to answer for capital offense except on the indictment of grand jury. Holland noted that when the 14th Amendment was adopted, the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of 27 states expressly forbade criminal prosecutions by information for capital cases. Holland's strong concern was that the safeguarding the personal liberty of defendants. This agreement, let's see, against official representation, including mobs, let's see, the law to bring ruin upon their personal enemies, while the other guarantees of the Fifth Amendment were subsequently applied to the states. Grand jury provision remains unincorporated. Yeah, because on the common law. But anyway, here's a response. Suggests Downing, Jessica Saxton. So there's some universities. Northern Illinois. Let's see. Supporters of empowering county grand juries in the state of Iowa were likely surprised and excited by remarks made at Davenport City Council meeting on 25th June in Saxton. Yep, we gotta have that. So no video for that meeting. The message was direct and to the point. Right on. Fifth and 14th Amendment Constitution are being violated. Legislation passed by Iowa will permit prosecuting attorneys, police charged by way of information rather than grand jury indictment. And that paying public officials and law enforcement to deprive these rights is also in violation of 18, 241, 22. Color of law, both pulling to grossly in error. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. I knew that was going to do it. And further research shows that the audience already been informed of this frivolous assertion by court order. No, they offered him money. First clause of the Fifth Amendment states no person bans for capital otherwise infamous crime less than presumably indictment good rate. However, the Fifth Amendment applies to federal government, not state governments. It applies to anything in the United States. You can't incorporate and say you're immune. So the selective incorporation doctrine is one whereby the Supreme Court of the United States has held that certain enumerated rights in the Bill of Rights extend to its protection of the citizens of the United States against state action to the 14th Amendment. First clause of the Fifth Amendment is not currently among those rights the Supreme Court has held to be incorporated by the 14th. In fact, the highest court refused to do so in this California case in 1884, in which 1928 the court upheld specifically in regards to adjudicating State of Washington and Gaines versus Washington, stating that in part criminal prosecution in the states may be by information instead of indictment. Downing claims that have served the Attorney General of Iowa and the Supreme Court justices preparation for appearing before SCOTUS. Downing provided a copy of what he claims to have served personally, an unnotarized affidavit from Carol Brewer to a staff member in Brennan Bird's office. One or more than 2 million claim to be collected throughout the states. Indeed, affidavits may be served by private citizens and may precede applications or petitions regarding legal action. The enormous and frivolous, no evidence. They're not debunking him at all. They just keep saying it's frivolous legal action Downing plans to take. In his belief, even though he's provided examples, and that's just a few of many in the law, violation by 47 states, including Iowa and their prosecutors, judges, and law enforcement. This is the hit piece. Law enforcement of the grand jury cause of the Fifth Amendment. Downing and Saxton both introduced themselves as civil rights advocate and a litigator. From the credentials provided, neither as a law. So here we go. There is no license to practice law. Here we go. There we go. Domestic violence. It is RICO, but I don't know if he can. I mean, Downing and Saxton both introduced themselves. That's crazy. 626 of the Constitution of the State of Washington reads no grand jury shall be drawn or summoned in any county, except the superior judge thereof shall so order. So yeah, it's just a personal attack. They're not debunking his argument. They're just trying to say that, oh yeah, he had a domestic violence and he's mad with the ruling. He didn't get it. He's not fair. I'm gonna play this video, folks. Notice all freaking. It's 2025. Woo! Public now. Hold on. What? Uh-oh. This case in American history. He hasn't researched very far. They're going to continue to try to sundown this information as it gets mainstream. And they do need to go to prison. That's what the law says. Or hung in the middle of the street. If they're going to treat us like slaves. I'm sorry, Article what?
States Constitution requires it. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 says, no person shall be held to answer for a otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So that's clear. You need to have an indictment by a grand jury before holding someone over for a capital or an infamous crime. So when the state of Washington says we're not going to do that, then that means that the moment that they issue an arrest or an order for an arrest, that is in fact an unconstitutional arrest because it derives from an unconstitutional act. And therefore anything that results from that unconstitutional arrest must also be unconstitutional because it's tainted by the illegality of the way in which it was obtained. So we've got news across the country right now. They're talking about indictments by a grand jury, but they're talking about it for one man, the former President Trump. But what we need to start talking about is the fact that there's 600,000 people across the United States of America today that are in prison that never received an indictment by a grand jury, despite the fact that that is a constitutional right that they have.
But you said Oklahoma, it doesn't do that as well.
Oklahoma does not.
Okay.
And you can find the more video button. This is the video though that we're looking for. Let's start this over. Check them out.
Federal court claim for violation of rights under color of law and for failure to
Start over.
It's a real case in the Washington, D.C. federal court. Claim for violation of rights under color of law and for failure to train. Part 1, Constitutional duty of all citizens. Tell me if this might apply to you. All gun laws are unconstitutional. Every city, county, state, and federal civil officer of the United States is bound by the Constitution for the United States of America, as well as their respective state institutions. This obligation extends and clerks and lawyers and law enforcement officers, and judges and non-governmental employees. He is sworn to uphold both state and federal constitutional guarantees. See Kelly versus Railroad Retirement Board, 625 F. 2nd 486 from 1980. They are an imposter in violation of Title 18, United States Code annotated 912 and 913. Every legislative civil officer who has drafted, co-written, or voted for a bill that became law, and every lawyer who prosecuted people or persons for such law, as well as every executive civil, including but to Leos, who has enforced such a law, as well as any clerk who allowed the case to proceed and did not file such into the court record, and every judge who has prosecuted or convicted individuals under such law, and or enforcing, co-written, or voted for a bill that became law, and every lawyer who prosecuted people or persons for violating any such law, as well as every executive civil officer, including but not limited to Leos, who has enforced such a law, as well as any clerk who allowed the case to proceed and did not refuse to file such into the court record, prosecuted or convicted individuals under such law by enacting and or enforcing and or prosecuting and or adjudicating any and every, quote, gun laws, quote, firearm laws, or the like. Such civil officers are in fact and in law waging war against the Constitution by infringing the rights of the people secured by the Second Amendment and the Colorado Constitution, Article 2, Section 13, which guarantee the of the people to keep and bear arms in defense of home, person, and property. Therefore, all such civil officers must be impeached and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It's a federal court claim for violation of rights under color of law and failure to properly.
Oh, fuck. Oh. Oh, let's just hit my shit. Look at me. Yeah, the password's not working. It's saved to something else. I changed it. I just got a YouTube channel. Let's see, I'm just more on TikTok. Oh, I know something stupid. That's crazy.